Hey everyone, this is Chris. You're listening to the Dad Regime Podcast. Thanks for joining us again. I can't wait to play this episode for you. I just got a couple of things I want to mention first though. Thank you to all the men, all the dads who came to the first ever Dad Regime event earlier in the month. It was a terrific day. We can't wait to plan something new. You're going to hear some content from that day in future episodes. Should be a lot of fun. There's one other thing that I really want you to do. I've been trying hard not to do a whole like and subscribe thing on any of the content that we put out. But over the month, pushing out a whole lot of different stuff, what I've come to the realization is that it makes a huge difference when people share our content. So those of you who are listening, those of you who do engage in what we do, can I get you to do one other thing? I love it when you like, I love it when you comment. Can you also share? We'd love it if you did that. And we've got a very special guest. This is one of the best podcasts I think we've ever done. Can't wait for you to hear it. Hey, Pete, we're back.
Hello, how are you? And we have got a new special guest. We've only ever had one special guest on the pod before.
Yeah.
And because Simon and Joel are soft.
Incapacitated.
There's a word, I just can't use it, that I'm thinking of from a previous podcast, but I'm not going to use it. So, yes, I'd like to welcome and introduce everyone to Stan.
Hello, I'm Stan, and thank you for the special part. That feels nice.
Thanks for joining us, Stan.
Cheers.
My son just had a birthday a couple of weeks ago, and it seems like it's birthday season in his little group of friends, because we seem like we're going to birthdays every other week at the moment. I used to hate going to kids' birthday parties.
But now you enjoy it?
Well,
you're warming to it?
I'm warming to it. But there's a reason why I'm warming to it.
Party pies?
Why is that?
It's because I don't have to go anymore.
Oh, yes. Yes.
How did you get the pass?
Well, because, like, kids' birthdays, there's this weird sort of period of time where kids' birthdays are really about the parents, right? You know, when their first birthday, that's really the parents' celebration. Parents invite their friends.
Yep.
Second birthday, the same thing. I mean, kids don't have any real friends at 2, right?
No.
3, maybe they're starting to make some more connections at, kindies and playgroups and whatever, and so you're inviting a few more people. And then there's this weird sort of time where it's like 4 and 5, where you're having a kid's birthday party and you're inviting their friends, but you're also inviting their parents.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of almost doing 2 parties. You'd have this little kids party.
Yes.
But then you also kind of have to entertain the parents as well. And sometimes they're people you know, but often they've started school or they're at kindy, they're parents, you're people you don't know. So you kind of playing 2 roles.
Yes.
But now, like Thomas is 7, now the birthday parties are drop off and pick up. And that's cause for celebration for me.
Are they still sitting at about 2 or 3 hours?
Yeah, so the last couple we've been to, Thomas's was 10 till 1.
Yep.
And the last couple that we've been to have been the same thing, 10 till 1. And I think that 3 hours is the sweet spot.
So you are in the sweet spot at the moment, because I think with the 7 years of birthdays, I think when it gets to 8 and 9, the birthday parties drop off, because I think parents are so sick of organising them that they go, how about I just take you to this year and you can bring one friend?
Yes.
And then they start to drop off.
Yep.
So I'm kind of in that period.
Yeah.
And then I think it starts to work its way up again after that.
Yeah.
But you're yet to really hit the 5-6 hour ones with a sleepover at the end. They're the good ones. They're the really good ones.
Do they become experiences now where your kids will say, come along to this guy's party, or we're having this party, and you'll buy them an experience? And is that fun again for you, because as a parent, because it's an experience? It might be bowling. Or what happens at 9?
Well, I think I've made it pretty well known that I love a good laser tag party.
Okay.
I love a good laser
so
tag
it becomes
party.
about you again, without them knowing.
Like I've gone to my kids' parties when it's laser tag, and
That's cool.
and I'll walk in and go, "Hi, I'm Pete. Who are you? Oh, nice to meet you. I'm playing too." And I suit up. I've been known to do that at a number of
Do you
parties.
take over?
Mate, I dominate. I'm a natural born killer. But some of the parties, I've spoken about this before. I couldn't believe it when the parents said, "We'll be there at like 11. We'll pick your child up. We'll take them to the movies, and then we'll take them to Sizzler after, and then they can come back to our house, and then we'll drop them back about 5 or 6 tonight."
Yeah,
and I was like, I don't even have to drop them there. This is sensational.
How good's that? See, this all seems really foreign to me because I've never. See, you know how you were saying, Chris, how you hated parties. I love parties, but I could never attend them with my little guy. With Dean, just from birth, you know, being with his autism and stuff. He just doesn't do social interaction and stuff. And so pre 2 years old, we knew something was going on. Between 12 months and 24 months, we knew something was going on, but he hadn't been formally diagnosed yet. So we just thought, he was this kid that was very different. So we'd attempt to go to all these parties, you know, it was really awkward. And he'd be doing all these, like, crying and not wanting to play with all the other kids and doing these natural things. So I'd find myself in a corner somewhere with him. And then it all made sense when he got diagnosed. And, but we still found ourselves getting invited to all these parties and turning up for 5 or 10 minutes. And that looks like me in 10 minutes, you know, having to leave because you just can't do the whole sound and the friendship thing. And so that's what it was for me. So it's interesting listening to you guys as dads with normally developing kids talk about this stuff. And I'm trying to understand what you're saying because I'm trying to put myself in that position, but I haven't been in that position. It's really, and I find myself doing that a lot with a lot of conversations actually. But it was really cool. But be honest, Pete, you know when you do the whole laser tag thing, do you buy the video and then watch it back? That's when you know.
There's
that's
no
when
video.
You know you're gone.
It's too dark.
Stepped over the line.
Too dark a smoke machine, mate. But I do occasionally take photos of the scoreboard when I come out just to show you how much I've dominated them.
Love it. That's good. Oh, that's good. So sorry to put a bit of a somber note.
No,
but it's just how it was for me, as what I was feeling when you guys were talking about this. I'm like starting to feel that disconnect.
Do you want to describe Dean's autism?
Yeah, sure. So it's what a paediatrician classed it as a classical autism. So he shows all the traits, and some of those are not looking at people in the eyes, walking on their toes, spinning around continuously without losing balance, or when they stop they can just walk a straight line. It's quite freaky. So no social interaction, blocking your ears, the stuff that you see at schools and stuff for kids do, and just not wanting to interact at all. So
So in terms of communication with you,
so
you're quite prevalent in the caring, I understand.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, outside of what he does at school, when he comes home, I become almost his full-time carer.
Yeah.
Where my wife Georgie, we have a daughter that's a year. Ebony's a year younger than Dean, so obviously we get the other. My wife Georgie spends a lot of time with Ebony, and just because he's getting bigger, going back on your birthdays, Dean turns 13 on Friday, which is awesome. So he's sort of becoming a teenager. So he's almost at my height, and he's he's faster than Georgie now. So if he decides to dash across the road, she's got no chance. So it's become my role, and that's why I need to stay active and fit. Just to care for him and make sure that he's safe.
And no, you go.
I wanted to just touch on the party situation.
Yeah.
One of the difficulties I imagine would occur frequently is you're not going to have those cues initially.
Yeah.
That must be quite a social barrier to have to cross.
Yeah, definitely. So there's been some massive changes in our life because of that. Even having friends that can come over and visit, and you do the whole come to your place, go to your place. That doesn't work with our family. Just simply because he was very severe when he got diagnosed at 2 years old. Back then they called it a CAS test, and they ask you a series of questions, and it was a scale from 0 to 60. 60 being severe, 30 being mild and just over what they class as being autistic, and 0 obviously being normally developing. Dean came in at about 45, and but he was so on the border of almost sort of more closer to severe. So he's still non-verbal. He's 13. Excuse me. And it poses a whole lot of issues with the whole social. He can't read social cues. Kids will come to his party that we've invited just because we try it every year to see how, just as a gauge as to how he's going socially, and he's gradually improving, which is great. But ideally, in an ideal world for him, his favourite birthday would be him with his TV, or maybe just a couple of family members just down at the pool. And that's what we're doing on Sunday. Yeah, we're gonna just have my brother-in-law and his kids that he's grown up with, and we're just going to go down to the rec club because he loves being in the water and he loves open spaces. In fact, that's why we moved here from Melbourne.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's just too cold down there. Yeah, and we find ourselves visiting other people, which he hated, but you can't do anything else. It was so cold, so it just didn't work for our family. So here we are. Yeah.
So what other adjustments have you put in place in terms of atmosphere and ambient noise and things like that? I think you mentioned that you sometimes go to a supermarket or something. Or not a supermarket, was it? A shopping centre or something if a storm's coming or something like that.
That's right.
Are there other adjustments you do?
Yeah, that was around. So he needs to go out for his daily walk, and it's 4:30 every day, and that's usually down the beach. But because, like when it's raining like today, we go down to the Maroochydore, what's it called? The indoor. It's the
Homemaker Centre.
Homemaker Centre. Yeah. Thank you, Pete. Yep, and it's massive, and they all know us in there because we're going to Harvey Norman. We try all the recliners, but Stuart, we've spent $5,500 on a recliner, so he lets us play on it now, which is really cool. So that, yeah, that's one thing that he needs to do. Get out every day. Otherwise, it just messes with his sleep, and then it just messes the whole day, the following day. But some of the other adjustments that we've made is, we're just building our new home now, and that's designed by my brother-in-law, who's an architect, and he's known Dean all his life, and the whole house is basically designed around him, where we've got these zones where he's visible. We can see him behind a sheet of glass, but he's in his own little zone. So we can have people over for the first time in many years, and entertain and get our social life back. And he can do his thing and not feel like his space has been impeded. So I think it's going to be a win-win, which is really cool. But yeah, going on ambience and all that, you've nailed it. We turn the lights down at night, leave the lamps on. We never raise our voices in the house. He gets startled really easy. If someone's going to use a blender, we've got to make sure that he's way over the other side of the house. And it's just basically all those auditory.
Yeah. Do you have the sound reduction headphones and things like that?
Yeah, well, he wears headphones on the bus.
Yeah.
And he's got his iPad where he watches his favourite movies and he cruises along. Because if you get old mate down the back who decides to just throw out a high-pitched sound, that would really freak him out to the point where he just wants to get up and while the bus is driving, go and open the door, want to jump out. Just wants to get out of that zone. So, yeah, headphones are massive for Dean. He never wears them at home again because it's all pretty quiet at home. But, he struggles with that at birthdays and shopping centres and the like. Yeah. But, it's... Again, I don't want to paint this bleak picture. It was some real dark times. Dean cried from birth till he was 6 for a minimum of 8 hours a day. And as a parent, I'm sure you guys can relate to this. Like, you could almost put up with your football team losing, but when your kid's crying and you can't settle them, for 20 minutes, let alone 8 hours a day, for every day. But then I don't know what happened at around 6 years old. I don't know, he might have run out of tears or worked out that it's just not working for him or something. Something happened for him in his head, and he's turned the corner. He's been good ever since. Yeah.
So when you first found out, what was the not just the family support, but like outside support? Was that made readily available, or did it just feel like you were just put in a pile and you just had to work it out for yourself, or what happened there?
Yeah, definitely the latter. We didn't know anything about autism. This was 11 years ago now, and maybe because we're in a bit of a bubble. It was our first child. We were young parents, so I'm sure it was out there. Obviously not to the levels of awareness it has now. But we had just moved here for a sea change. Ironically, when he was 6 months or a year old, Ebony was just born, and we came here because we loved Noosa. We were here on our honeymoon, 10 years part of that. Moved here, loved it. I was in a business in Melbourne, and that was full on. So we did the whole coming here for a lifestyle change, and that was really cool. But when he got diagnosed at 2, we didn't have what you were saying, no support around us. And we really had to work out what we're going to do. We didn't know what to do at all, actually. We had to really self-educate ourselves. I remember, this is really sad because I work in education, but driving back crying from Brisbane when he got diagnosed with a paediatrician and saying to my wife, can you just Google autism? Is it AU or is it ORT? Like, we need to, and it was just full on. And we're reading about it on the way back, and it was the whole, you go through the whole why me stage, and then we quickly realised that although it was good for a day, it felt really nice to get sympathy from other people. You don't want to be in victim mode. That wasn't cool. So the second day we sort of looked at strategies and how we're going to work through this, which was really good for us because having other friends that we've met in groups, support groups, people still struggling 10 years later. And that's why we sort of try and get out there and help it as many people as we can. Yeah. Yeah, so
do you do mentoring kind of things with parents, or do you go to support groups?
So not actively, only because outside of work we both work full time. Outside of that, caring for him doesn't leave much time at all. So we'd love to be doing more, but we've just got some friends that we had from back in those days, the support groups that we've managed to stay in touch with, and we just provide as much support as we can for those people, and then for us. So that's how it all works for us. Yeah.
So if we flipped it around a little bit, let's just say someone who is about to have a baby in your family, not your family, but like if in the listener's family, the diagnosis came through and it was what would be the 3 things that a family could do to help out those people who've just had the diagnosis? What would be 3 things what the outer family could do to help to support?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. Right. So for us, the biggest support would be some respite, I'd say. Getting to understand what triggers the child, and get an understanding around that, and some strategies around dealing with that. Even though you're not the parent, because there's some really damning statistics that come with kids with autism, parents that have kids with autism. One of them's 80% of marriages end up in divorce, simply because it's pretty tough. You get kids crying and you just don't know how to console them. So you find that the parents are having a crack at each other for that reason. But so definitely number one would be getting in there, rolling up your sleeves, and just putting your arm around these people and just telling them that they're not on their own. And just giving them a night off from time to time, I think will be a massive help. Because as you know, everyone just needs that time for themselves, and they can do, I don't know, whatever they want with that time, but everyone needs it. That'd be my biggest one. Outside of that, I don't know. There'd be other things, but I guess I'd just be happy with that one.
my guess would be though that the family member would have to understand routines and the triggers, like you said, before they could really offer that respite, and for the child to be comfortable with that family member. Yeah,
totally.
And so, how long do you think it kind of would take to build up that kind of trust, just in your experience?
Yeah, sure.
How does that sort of work?
Yeah. Although they have a lot of similarities, they're very different also. So it's on a case to case. But I'd say a minimum of a few months where you sort of come in as you would. You visit your brother just as you go over for a barbie, and instead of sitting around the barbie and having beers, which with your brother and his wife and all that, maybe spend half that time playing with this little guy or little girl, or just throwing a ball with them, or just engaging in an activity that they enjoy, and that way you'll build that relationship with them, and you'll also get to know what triggers them, what calms them down, what soothes them, and then once you create that relationship, it'll make it a lot easier for everyone, and then you can help out. There's massive assistance there. You could help them with, for sure. Yep. Yeah.
I'm interested in the balance between being a parent and being a carer. Like, do you have to compartmentalize your role as a carer, or do you just look at it as, this is my role as dad, and this is what it encompasses?
That's so interesting. That I've been a dad / carer now for, as I said, 13 years, and you won't believe it, Chris, but I haven't spent any time thinking about that until we went out a couple of weeks ago to the Yamundi Brewery, and we had that awesome experience with all the guys there. That was amazing. I had a blast. And with the whole dad's regime and some of the questions that you guys were asking, and some of the the conversations we were having around that stuff, I actually went home and I remember saying, I think to Pete the next day, or to you, Chris, that I started thinking about, because you hear about there was so many dads there, and they were talking about their kids, and I'm thinking, hang on a second, I can't relate to any of this stuff. Like, I can understand what you're saying. I've obviously got a daughter as well, but I don't spend nowhere near enough time as I do with, like, it's maybe a 90-10 split between the kids, if I'm lucky, if she's lucky. But it got me thinking that day, and I guess it's become a carer's role more than a parent role, a parenting role, because what I had envisaged as a younger man before I had children was, going to the football with my son, or going to drag racing, or whatever it may be, and giving him advice and having a chat on the way there, and talking some strategies around what's going on for you at school and how can we tackle this, but being non-verbal, not wanting. So he's never come to the movies or never gone to restaurants and stuff. A footy's no chance. So I questioned how much of a parenting role I had, and it was I think it's almost zero.
Yeah, wow.
Parenting is in what you guys know it as, and I guess that's being a parent for Dean and a carer doesn't really make it's sort of merged into one, really, but it's different to every other parent, as every other dad, I guess. But and I struggled with that initially without having thought about why it's happening. It was just the whole, I wish I had some more time to myself and all that sort of stuff. But you just sort of get busy with life and you keep going. but I think I've now that I've identified what's going on for me, I've just come into a relative peace in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, right.
Which is really strange, you know. Like I'm 43 next week, and I just the last 2 weeks have been really peaceful for me because I've identified it. I've realised that it's okay to be a carer, and yeah. So I don't know. It's been really good. Yeah.
I'm
in awe.
yeah,
Yeah.
in awe and a little bit satisfied too that you got so much out of our dad regime event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. See, I don't spend a lot of time outside of caring for Dean. So, and when I socialise, when I have a couple of hours of leisure time when, you know, Georgie takes that role on, and I've usually either got Ebony or I'll spend a couple of hours watching the football, and it's a mind-numbing thing. It's somewhere where I can get into the zone and just sort of enjoy that. So outside of that, it was being around all those dads, which was really cool. Although initially it was quite confronting, but stepping away from that and then going home and sort of thinking about it, it created some other stuff for me in my head. But it's really cool. It was really nice to do. I love the people. The guys at our work are amazing. Like I think they're the best people on the Sunshine Coast. They're just incredible. So there's a lot of care there, and when you're in a safe, vulnerable environment, it's just beautiful. Like to talk about the stuff that matters, and that's what I got out of that. And I guess it's
a few beers as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There was a brewery involved. That's right. Yeah, that's it.
So, we've talked about the bleak times. We've talked about this, that, and the other.
Yep.
So, your relationship with Dean, in terms of it being a carer's role, them, the upsides.
Yep.
Yep. Breakthroughs.
Yeah.
I mean, us as parents, we talk about, oh, my kid's finally doing this, or my kid's finally doing that. What's been the big breakthrough? You mentioned this when he was 6 years old and he stopped the crying.
Yep.
What are some of the other things where you've just like given yourself a fist pump? Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. So we do choice theory, as you know, at school, and I did some self-awareness stuff about 10 years ago. And as we all know, the only person you can help and fix is yourself.
Yep.
And change and control is yourself. Yep. But it's really interesting. In my role as a carer with Dean being non-verbal and sort of developmentally these cognitive skills, they're sort of at their real early stages. I can actually have a lot of input in how I affect his life. So the more effort I put in, I get a lot of results out of Dean. It sort of it goes against everything I know about you can only change yourself. Mm-hmm. I'm actually can change Dean by putting a lot of work and effort and love and care. And some of the breakthroughs have been incredible. Like I still remember, when he started to learn how to throw a ball and catch a ball. Even he sort of ran and walked later. So it's all these little things.
So you still hit the milestones, they're just at a different rate.
Yeah, that's it.
And
exactly.
Because I find in my role, there's people that parents that might have a child with all sorts of disabilities, and sometimes they'll go through those stages that you were talking about, and they'll go, right, well, if now that we know, if we work really hard with our kid, they'll think they'll get a year's growth in their learning or in their whatever developmental thing they're trying to go through. And sometimes you've got to have that tough realization or conversation has to be had where, they might not do it in a year, what another child might do in a year.
Yeah.
but they can still do it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of what you're saying, isn't
Yeah.
it? That like you might not expect it at 6 years, but you might get it at 10.
Yeah.
You might get it at 7. You might get it at 13, or
I've also learned
like
too,
that.
Pete. Yeah, not for me. Having no expectations has been awesome because we're just trying to provide a safe environment and a loving environment for him to flourish and reach his potential whenever that may be. We always get the question, is he going to talk? Is he, going to get a job? And really, we don't know. We have a positive outlook on it all, and all we know is that if we keep putting all these systems in place, like keep putting the love in, putting the care in, speech therapy and OT, and he's got amazing carers at school, he'll just he'll hit his own ceiling, and that's all we can hope for as parents. I never put a time, no, because I feel like it's almost setting yourself up for failure. So that's how we roll, and other parents have got their own strategies, and that's cool. But for the little man, we just keep putting a love in, and whatever he becomes, and we'll be happy with that. Yeah.
Cool. I have another question, but I don't know whether it's at the right time of the discussion, bro. Right?
Hit me.
I'm just really interested in how you found access to government support and things like that. And like I said, I don't think it really fits in at this spot. But in terms of like, like just, we've spoken a number of times about how ringing up a government department and then you're on hold for 40 minutes and then you're put off to something else and then you never get a result and you end up having 10 phone calls.
Yep.
Like for you, those 10 phone calls would be a nightmare because you can't get something done when you need to be done if you're caring for your child. So accessing the support from government departments in this area, how have you found that, or access? I'm guessing you get some financial help as well. I mean, you talk about it as
it's very easy for me to talk about it because I don't have any stuff around this. Financially, the government provides you with a carer's allowance once you get a formal diagnosis, and for us, it's around the $100 mark a fortnight from Centrelink. So outside of that, listen to this, right? The only thing that's proven to help kids with autism is a thing called ABA, Applied Behavioural Analysis. It's a proper school, one-on-one. It's all these little cubicles where you sit with a teacher, if you like, and the kid with autism sits opposite them, and it's 6 hours of giving them a simple instruction, and then when they master it, you move on to the next thing, and this is all overlooked by psychologists that changes the program on a monthly usually. And so all these things come at a cost. In fact, they come at a $1,500 a week cost. We did that with Dean for 3.5 years, from the ages of 3 to 6.5. So if you do the math, I think it's around $300,000 that we had to come up with out of our own pockets. The government was good enough to give us $100 a fortnight, simply because Australia...
I hope you said thank you.
Oh, I was very grateful. Very grateful. It didn't even cover his nappies. So look, the NDIS has just been rolled out, which is awesome. We're about 20 years behind in mental health, unfortunately. When Dean got diagnosed 11 years ago, we had friends moving to Canada, England, because all the $300,000 I was talking about, that was all fully funded by their governments. And they're thinking, 300 grand, that's all right. It's an Australian-speaking country. I've got family in England, for example. Why wouldn't I? So they did it, and we're just coming on board now. So Dean has just been accepted for NDIS. He has his full diagnosis. We've just received $24,800 for the 12 months, which is awesome. That will buy him an hour of speech therapy a week, an hour of occupational therapy every second week, and for the first time ever, get ready, drum roll, Chris.
We'll add in the sound of it.
I thought yours was pretty good though.
We get 3 hours on a Saturday where he'll get picked up and taken down to his local beach, and they'll take him for a walk one-on-one. I'll give him a key to the rec club where we live, and he's got access to the pool, so he'll go in with whoever the carer is for an hour, and then they'll go down to McDonald's and have lunch together, and then I get to spend with time with my family, with Ebony and Georgie, and we get the 3 hours a week, which is going to be amazing.
Wow. Cause for celebration then.
Yeah, big time.
Cool.
I'll probably sit there like a stuffed vegetable for the first couple of weeks, trying to work out what movie to watch on Netflix. Oh, I know the 3 hours are up. Crap, I'll watch it next week. but I think it'll be good for us, because like it's massive for us, but I think for him too, because like you find yourself always you default to how it is for you. Where it is with these kids, with any kid really, or any relationship, the more you put yourself in the other person's shoes, the better your relationship's going to get. I find. Yeah. So that's what we try to do, and really this poor little guy. All I've been speaking about is how it is for me being a dad. Yeah. But let's be real. This poor little guy's born into this thing. The ultimate frustration of not being able to say how you feel, not telling your baby sister to piss off when you want to, you know what I mean, and just giving her a serve when you want to, or what like it's all this other stuff that we sort of just do, and he can't do, the poor little guy. So that's why we just sort of get up and do it, and I'll probably complain a couple of times, but I hope I don't complain too much about it. This is, and again, this is more around just saying how it is, and hopefully other people getting some awareness around how it is for families like ours.
Well, like if this gets heard by, there's any number of people, then it's either going to raise awareness, or it's going to make someone feel better about the position they're in. So I don't think it's a matter of you complaining or you. Yeah. I think it's just you giving a candid account of what you've been through. Yep. And it doesn't sound as though like you're being selfish or anything. You're just giving them the nuts and bolts. About being a dad in this situation. So, cool. So who's tougher, you or Georgie?
So we go through our stages, and it's about how much you can hold at the time. Like, honestly, we go through periods where she can't hold the space for it, and then you instinctively step in. Take this. And it's worked. We've been together for 20 plus years now. 23, I think, and and it's only happening for 13, but. Yeah, that's how it's worked for us, and it's working fine. But we're getting to the point now where this third person will help heaps on a Saturday. But sorry, just going back on what you were saying before, how some of the things that, so some of the skills and how it's helped and enriched our lives. So with that experience now, I can bring that into our school, for example, because I work, as you guys know, with some of the kids that are on the spectrum and stuff, and like I do stuff without even realising. I pick up on stuff without even realising that I know that. Like
brought a sixth sense to you, Stan. Like an intuition.
It's freaky connection with these special little kids, and it's So you bring some of that to work, which is really cool. That's a skill set, I think, and tolerance and patience. Which you sort of get from being in a family like ours. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that people that know you as the person you are at school and what you do for work. I wonder how many people actually realise what you're going through with your family outside of school. Because you come across as the happiest guy on earth without a trouble in the world. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, do you sometimes come and just put on the show, or when you step into school, is that because like for me, I find that when I go to work, if there's something that's been going on outside of work, I just leave it and I just get to work and I just do my thing, and then I step back into that mood or whatever's going on outside of in my life. If something's going not so great, I just leave it at the door and it doesn't pick up again till 3 o'clock. So where are you in that?
Yeah, how it works for me is that sort of I live with this thing, and it's not even that's just me. What you see at school is who I am.
Yeah.
In fact, it probably hindered me a bit. Like I could probably come in twice as bubbly.
God.
I know it's scary, mate. It's scary. Sometimes I think I moved out of Melbourne. Maybe I got pushed out of Melbourne. I don't know. But I just naturally I'm full of beans, and I just think that a smile and good positive energy can make a difference. And who else to help the kids, you know? And I just come in there with that energy, and I just like to connect. And then it's funny, you get to know, if you put the effort in, you learn all their names and what they like. It's really amazing what you can get out of them, because they feel like you know them, and they feel important, and they feel special. And that's when I feel like that's when they give their best. So I guess that's probably why I do it. Yeah. But it's a natural thing. It's not something I fabricate. Yeah, no, that's going to be me till the day I die, I reckon. So you're going to put up with me, mate. So too, all the other 1,200 freaks in that school.
Awesome.
It's too late. Accelerate, girl, what you take a trip, relax your mind, watch the white light drift away.
Yep.
So Stan, we've kind of covered all the members of the family bar one. So how is the relationship with Ebony and your daughter and your son, and how does she fit into the whole dynamic? How does she cope, etc.?
Okay, so their relationship is a strange one as compared to normal kids. It's the only one they know, obviously. They don't interact at all, simply because Dean doesn't want to interact with anyone. She keeps trying, to her credit. She's amazing. She's very resilient. She's quite nurturing. She'll instinctively look out for his best interests. Where my wife and I, Georgie, are very mindful as to how much, if any, load we give her when it comes to Dean and looking after Dean. We very closely monitor that. We like to take that load on ourselves, being parents, but without realising, she'll fall into that mode where she's caring for him and an extra set of eyes, or getting something for him when we're busy and whatnot. As to how it's impacted her quality of life, I think it has probably taken a lot of social development away from her.
Right.
Personally, because we haven't been able to mingle with other families as much as we'd like to. And as you know, when they're catching up with friends outside of school, they're learning all this other stuff, loyalty and friendships and whatever, learning how to argue and all these other things that just form organically.
Sure.
In schools, obviously there's some social development that happens there, but predominantly it's learning, and we have found that academically she's right up there, but socially, she's had her challenges, and I won't hesitate for a second to think that the whole autism thing hasn't had a role to play in her social development or lack thereof.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
What's on your playlist?
Oh, do you know what? Do you know what? There's something I've got to tell you. This has got nothing to do with my playlist. It is something that I watch, but I got
Off topic.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No, this is just a real quick one. I spoke about watching Back to the Future with my kid and how awesome that was, and how I don't really watch many of their movies and stuff like that. Right? The Matrix with Jax, my older son. Right. Blew his freaking mind. It was sensational. Anyway, that's not my playlist.
But you haven't told him that there's any sequels, right? Because you don't want to ruin that. Ruin that experience.
No, I did tell him, and he goes, "Can we watch them?" And I said, "No, you are never ever watching them." But the next day, he was like, "So, Dad, you know, like the Matrix, would there be more than one reality that they're making? You know, like he'd thought that, you know, like maybe there's one alternative reality." And I was like,
he took the red pill.
Yes. Anyway, no. So my playlist this week, I came across it. It's on SBS On Demand, and it is Seth MacFarlane's sci-fi. I don't want to say it's a spoof of Star Trek, but it is a Star Trek kind of thing. You know, Seth MacFarlane from Family Guy and etc.
And everything else.
Yes, it is called the Orville. And I don't know, and I think it's because Orville was one of the Wright brothers, so it's, you know, like how they kind of do that spin. It kind of just reminds me of the original series with quirkiness. It wasn't. I've only watched about 3 episodes, and it's not something that I want to watch every day and binge watch it. It's something that I kind of like, a bit light-hearted. I might have another episode, you know, like that. But it's not as in your face as what the Family Guy is. It's not all the crazy voices and stuff like that. It's like an original Star Trek episode with better CGI, obviously, with better effects, with little quirky twists. So, you know, it's made as a comedy, but it's not laugh out loud funny the whole way through.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that there's little twists in it that are just quirky and throwbacks to what's happening in pop culture and stuff like that at the moment.
Someone described it to me as the British Office, but sci-fi.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. And it's not full of cliche either. You know, like if you read the synopsis, it'll be like, down on his luck, Captain gets his own ship and gets the worst crew, kind of. You know, that's the way it would read. But it's not that bad. Like, you know, it's not like that everything goes wrong. Because I started watching that Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
And I don't know about it. It's like they're trying to work every single second for a laugh. And they're not British comedy, so they have trouble doing it.
Second season gets better.
Okay, I'll hang on through it. But I'll watch the Orville first. Anyway, yes, so that's my one. It's not laugh out loud funny. It's not excellent sci-fi. It's this funny merge, and that's why I don't want to kind of call it a spoof. Stan, what's on your playlist?
All right, for me, it's the AFL's massive for me.
Footy season's back for Stan.
As you all know, I go into a dormant phase for 6 months.
He goes in his cocoon.
I go real deep into Joe Rogan actually for that 6 months while it's not on, and I really get into that sort of stuff because he has all the latest, you know.
The best guests on the planet.
Yes, he does, Chris. You're right. But yeah, happy to watch the AFL every game before it was up to me. So it was good to see Hawthorn get off with a win.
Big win.
Yep.
Yeah.
Over in Adelaide, which is always very hard to do, especially with a diminished team that we have, a very young team that we have now. So it's nice seeing these green shoots. And outside of that, I like to listen to a lot of heavy music, and I've crazily, believe it or not, it actually puts me to sleep. So Slipknot and Pantera for me puts me in a real relaxed state, and I head off to bed. Yeah, that's it for me, Chris. What's on your playlist?
I watched a Netflix documentary, Behind the Curve. It's a documentary about flat earthers.
Right.
Follows a few flat Earth YouTubers and that sort of stuff through this through probably over a year, and it goes to one of the conventions that they hold and all this sort of stuff. And it is, I hesitated to watch it because I was like, I don't want to watch a documentary about flat Earth, but it is compelling. And I don't want to give any. I don't think I'm giving anything away by talking about how you follow these people and you can't help but like them.
Start to believe them. Almost.
No, not at all. But you can't help but like them, and it's not like pity, but it's kind of like you kind of start to
Empathize.
Yeah, you actually start to empathize with who these people are, and there's 2 or 3 of them, and they get to this point, this moment of self-realization where you go, but you've just convinced yourself that the world's round, and then they snap back out of it. It's just this.
Is that stubbornness? Or?
Yeah, I don't know how they did it, but it's super interesting, super compelling, and it just a topic that I wouldn't ever have thought that I would want to watch, but it was just excellent stuff. Hey Stan, can't thank you enough for joining us today. Your candor and your honesty and openness was just brilliant. You are welcome back anytime you want.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're way better than Josh and Simon. Joel and Simon, sorry.
You forgot their names.
I was looking on my phone at something and the name Josh was there. Yeah, but Joel, Josh, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. The general.
Thanks for having me. It's been lovely to have the opportunity, because this stuff's really important to me and our family, and it's a great platform, and I wish you all the very best of luck. I'll be listening intently from here on. Cheers.
Thanks, mate.
Awesome. Thank you.
See you, everyone.
Go Hawks.
just stick that one in there.